Her father was dying. Her parents had nothing. So she left home for the city, chasing one desperate hope, to make them proud. What she didn't know was that the woman who promised her a future had built that promise on lies. That woman was trafficking young girls. And when she refused to give up her body, she was cast out, left with nothing. No roof. No money. No clue how to survive. She began selling water on the streets, praying each day wouldn't be her last. Then, deep in the bushes, she found a man clinging to life, shot, bleeding, and dumped like trash. She had no idea that this man was a billionaire, and saving him would forever change her fate. This is a story of heartbreak, resilience, and unexpected redemption. So grab your popcorn and prepare for a journey you'll never forget. And if this is your first time on our channel, hit subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and give this video a thumbs up if it touches your soul. The sky was still dark when Veronica arrived at the construction site. Her hands were already smeared with cement, and her shirt clung to her body from sweat. She was the lone woman in a swarm of laborers, but she carried her weight and more. Her headscarf was tight around her hair, her palms torn, her jeans shredded at the knees. She didn't care. She couldn't afford to. Every breath, every bruise, was for her father. She was just 22, but the hardships of life had aged her spirit. Her father, once a proud schoolteacher in Aji River, Enugu State, had been reduced to bones and weakness by an illness no one could name. 2 years ago, he began wasting away, and now he barely spoke. Her mother, Mama Veronica, stayed beside him day and night, feeding, washing, and weeping. But the miracle they prayed for never came. So Veronica became that miracle. She quit school, joined a construction crew, and started hauling blocks. While her peers wore makeup and snapped selfies, she was lifting sandbags, breaking her body to keep her father alive. "That fine babe dey mix cement," one of the workers sneered. "She be man," another laughed. "Pass my strength, SEF." But Veronica ignored their taunts. Every ache in her back was a promise to her father. Every naira earned was spent on medicine and food. That afternoon, the sun baked the red soil beneath her feet as a black SUV pulled up near the site. Dust flew into the air, turning heads. From the vehicle stepped out a woman wrapped in lace, her gold jewelry clinking as she moved. The scent of her expensive perfume hovered in the air like royalty. "Madam P," the workers whispered. Veronica looked up, bucket of cement still in hand. The woman tilted her head, squinting behind dark sunglasses. "Is that a girl?" She strode over, her heels digging into the dirt. "You," she said sharply. "What's your name?" Veronica dropped the bucket and wiped sweat from her face. "Veronica, Ma. You're a woman. And you do this work?" "Yes, Ma." Madam P studied her for a long, lingering moment. "You're strong. I like that. You're also stunning, even with cement all over you." Veronica smiled, shy. "Thank you, Ma. What would you say if I told you I could change your life?" Veronica blinked. "Change my life, Ma. I live in Lagos. I run businesses. I help girls like you. Come with me. I'll get you a job, something 10 times better. No more lifting blocks." Veronica's hands trembled. She'd never heard anything like this. "You mean it?" Madam P nodded. "I see potential in you." That night, Veronica rushed home, glowing. Her mother was spoon-feeding her father pap when she burst in. "Mama. Papa. Madam P said she'll take me to Lagos." Her mother dropped the spoon. "Lagos? She said she'll give me a better job. Good pay. I won't have to break stones anymore. She said I have potential." Her father coughed. "Veronica, be careful. She's from our village, Papa. Madam P. She helps people. I have to try. For you. For Mama. That night, no one slept. Mama Veronica sat quietly on the ground, tears sliding down her cheeks. Her only child. Her strength. Leaving. Papa called her close, placing a trembling hand on her head. My daughter, may you never know shame. May the city be kind to you. May you return with honor. Veronica nodded, swallowing her tears. I'll make you proud. Morning came. Neighbors gathered as Madame P's SUV arrived. Veronica embraced her father, whispering, I'll bring back money for your treatment. Her mother clung to her, sobbing. Don't let Lagos change who you are. Veronica climbed into the car. As it pulled away, she looked out the window, watching her parents grow smaller and smaller. What she didn't know was that Lagos wasn't waiting to embrace her, it was waiting to break her. The ride was long and sweltering, but Veronica barely noticed. She stared out the window, eyes wide. She had never left Enugu before. Every new sign, every tall building felt like she was stepping into a new life. Madame P hardly spoke. Her phone was glued to her ear. No. Send it now. I don't take excuses, she snapped at someone. Veronica sat quietly, clutching her tiny bag, afraid to shift in her seat. When they finally crossed into Lagos, it felt like entering a dream. Towering buildings kissed the sky. Cars jammed the roads, moving like waves of chaos. Everyone seemed to be chasing something. It was nothing like Aji River. Veronica's heart soared. Maybe, just maybe, her life was finally turning around. Madame P's SUV turned off the expressway and into a gated estate in Lekki. The neighborhood looked like something from a film, tall walls, polished streets, electric gates, neatly cut grass. When they reached the driveway of a large ivory-colored duplex, the car slowed to a stop. Flower beds lined the walkway like something out of a painting. The driver jumped out to open the door. Veronica stepped out cautiously, her hands gripping her small bag. Welcome to your new life, Madame P said with a grin. Inside, the house looked like a mansion out of a magazine. The floor sparkled with marble tiles. A massive chandelier hung above a sitting room filled with velvet chairs. The air smelled like perfume and air freshener. Veronica stood frozen, afraid to touch anything. You'll stay here with me for now, Madame P said, handing her a fresh towel. Go wash up. Food's in the fridge. Veronica couldn't believe it. She bathed in hot water for the first time in her life. Then she ate soft rice, juicy chicken, the kind that fell off the bone. That night, she slept on a bed that felt like clouds, under clean sheets, no mosquitoes, no heat. And she cried, not from sadness, but because hope was finally within reach. The next morning, she woke early, dressed neatly, and waited for her new job. But no job came. Instead, Madame P told her to relax. You've worked enough. Let Lagos spoil you a bit, she said with a glass of wine in hand. Veronica smiled politely and nodded, though something inside her stirred. A day passed. Then 2. Then 5. No job. No talk of any role. She cleaned around the house, scrolled the internet, watched shows on the giant TV. But inside, she was restless. Each passing day meant her father still lay untreated. Finally, one evening after dinner, she found the courage to ask. Ma, when will I begin the job you promised me? Madame P sipped from her glass and looked up lazily. Tonight. Veronica blinked. Tonight? Yes. Your first assignment is coming. Be ready. She bowed slightly. Thank you, Ma. Veronica rushed to her room, heart pounding. She imagined working reception at a hotel. Maybe night security. Anything. She ironed the one good dress she had and waited. At 8 p.m., Madame P entered with a shopping bag. Wear this, she said, dropping it on the bed. Veronica opened the bag, and her heart dropped. Inside was a red dress, small, tight, barely wearable. It looked more like lingerie than clothes. I don't understand, she said softly. You're meeting a guest. He paid for you, Madame P said, her voice suddenly sharper. Paid, for me? Veronica asked, confused. Yes. He likes girls fresh from the village. Don't act clueless. You're not here to babysit. Veronica took a step back. But I thought I was getting a real job. Madame P slammed her glass on the side table. This is the job. You'll make 10 times your construction pay in one night. Smile. Be sweet. That's all. Veronica shook her head. I can't. I'm not a prostitute. Madame P's face turned cold. Then get out. Veronica froze. Now. Take your things and leave. It was late. The sky was black. She had no money. No place to go. You think I'm running a charity? Madame P barked. You think I fed you for free? She called for security. The gate was flung open. Out. Before I change my mind. Trembling, Veronica picked up her nylon bag and stepped into the night. The gate slammed behind her like a final blow. She stood on the sidewalk, alone. The lights of Lagos no longer looked bright, they felt cruel. A few hours ago, she had hope. Now she was nothing but another girl dumped by the city. The street was quiet except for the hum of distant traffic and the buzz of a transformer. She looked down at the phone in her bag, dead, no SIM. No contacts. She didn't even know where she was. She walked aimlessly. One estate guard hissed as she passed, where you dey go like that? You dey waka for night? She didn't answer. Just kept moving. Arms wrapped around herself. Cars slowed beside her. Men called out. One followed her for blocks, calling her, fine girl, begging her to get in his car. She ran. Eventually, she found a dusty bus stop and curled up on a wooden bench. But it wasn't safe. At midnight, some drunk boys arrived. Weddin' this one day do for here, one slurred. Maybe she go join us play, another laughed. She jumped and fled again. By 2 a.m., she crouched behind a closed kiosk. Her bag was her pillow. Her wrapper her blanket. The cement floor was freezing. Mosquitoes bit her legs. Her stomach twisted with hunger. Her body ached. But she whispered, I won't cry. I'm not weak. Still, inside, she was shattered. By dawn, the streets came alive. People swept the gutters. She washed her face at a leaking pipe and walked with no plan. A woman selling Accra stared at her suspiciously. She ignored it. She remembered what Madame P had said, you think I fed you for free? That woman had lied to her. Deceived her. Almost sold her. The anger rose in her chest. I'll starve before I ever sell my body, she whispered. She began knocking on doors. Please ma, I'm looking for work. I can sweep, clean, anything. Most ignored her. Some men smirked. Come back tomorrow, one said, but wear something sexy. Another man, a boutique owner, asked her to wait inside. Then locked the door behind her. I can give you 20K. One night. Just one, he said, leaning close. Veronica bolted. By evening, her feet were swollen. Her stomach roared. Her throat was dry. She ended up under a bridge, sitting near beggars and hawkers. Some smoked. One girl had a baby on her chest. Another laughed to herself non-stop. Veronica sat in the corner, using her wrapper to shield herself. Rats skittered nearby. I won't die here, she whispered. I will survive. I'll make Papa proud. I will. That night, despite everything, she made a vow. She would rise. But never at the cost of her soul. By the fourth day sleeping under that cold bridge, Veronica stopped hoping for a miracle. Hope, she realized, was a luxury she could no longer afford. Her once full cheeks had begun to hollow. Her skin, once radiant and smooth, had turned dry and dusty. But even as her body weakened, her will remained untouched. That morning, she noticed a group of young girls gathering near a corner kiosk not far from the bridge. They balanced plastic bowls filled with sachets of water on their heads and chanted through traffic, "Pure water. Cold water. Just 50 naira." Veronica watched them closely. One of the girls, sharp-eyed with quick hands, noticed her standing nearby. "You dey look like say you want beg or you want sell?" she asked, smirking. "I want to sell," Veronica replied, voice low but steady. The girl eyed her from head to toe. "You get money to buy the water?" Veronica shook her head. The girl hissed and turned away. "Then go find another hustle, a beg." But an older woman selling roasted plantains nearby interrupted. "Give her a chance. If she thief your money, curse her." The girl reluctantly handed Veronica a small bowl of sachets. "Bring back 800 naira when you finish. Anything after that, keep am. Spoil my water, I go show you craze." Veronica nodded, balancing the heavy bowl on her head. Her legs trembled slightly as she stepped into traffic for the first time. Cars honked. Bus drivers cursed. Conductors jeered. She shouted, "Cold pure water. Cold water. Just 50 naira." At first, people ignored her. She was too soft-spoken. Too slow. A driver laughed in her face and sped off. But she didn't quit. This wasn't pride. This was survival. She learned quickly. Stand firm. Move fast. Smile, but not too much. And at night, while the others sold themselves for extra cash, she returned to the bridge, clutching her wrapper tightly, hiding behind abandoned kiosks or tables. Rain would sometimes pour suddenly, soaking her clothes and her water stock. On such nights, she'd sit curled in the corner, whispering, "God, please let morning come fast." Still, she refused to give in. Some girls mocked her. "You dey form Saint Abi? Saint no day chop for Lagos." She ignored them. Deep down, she clung to her vow. That promise she made under the stars her first night on the street: "I won't sell my body, no matter what." One night, after a long day of hawking in the sun, Veronica sat under the bridge staring at the sky. The stars barely pierced through the smoky city sky, but she looked anyway. "God," she whispered, "if you're still listening, please. Don't let this be the end of me." She had no idea that the very next day, that whispered plea would be answered in the most unexpected way. It was another scorching afternoon. Traffic on the expressway had ground to a halt. The sun scorched the pavement. Drivers leaned on their horns. Veronica weaved through the rows of stationary cars, her voice hoarse from shouting. "Cold water. Pure water. 50 naira." Her bowl was halfway empty. Her throat dry. Her shoulders aching. She hadn't eaten since the night before. Suddenly, a sharp pain twisted in her stomach. She needed a restroom, urgently. She scanned the area. No public toilet. No shops nearby. And she had no money to pay even if there were. Then she remembered the bushy patch of land behind the highway. A wild, overgrown area filled with litter and forgotten things. Clutching her bowl, she dashed toward it. She crouched behind the thickest part of the bush, trying to finish quickly. The smell of damp earth and rotting garbage was overwhelming. Just as she finished adjusting her wrapper, she heard it. A voice. Faint. Weak. Help, please, somebody. Veronica froze. The voice came again. Cracked. Distant. Desperate. Don't let me die. She stood still, her heart racing. Was it real? A trap? Slowly, cautiously, she tiptoed toward the sound. Branches cracked under her bare feet. Then, behind a stack of old tires and broken wood, she saw him. A man. Middle-aged. Dressed in a blood-soaked shirt and torn suit. His hands were tied behind his back. His legs too. A deep gash stretched across his forehead. His chest heaved slowly. His lips trembled. Veronica gasped, dropping her bowl. He opened his eyes for a brief second. His gaze locked with hers. Please, don't leave me. Then he lost consciousness. She stood frozen, her brain screaming with questions. Who was he? Was he dangerous? Was this a setup? But something deeper pushed her forward, something instinctive. This man was dying. And he needed help. She bent down and tried to lift him. He was twice her size. But she didn't stop. She dragged him, bit by bit, through the bush. Her arms shook. Her wrapper tore. Her knees scraped the ground. When they reached the edge of the road, she ran into the traffic, waving frantically. Please. Help. Somebody. Drivers honked. Some stared. None stopped. Until a beat-up yellow cab pulled over. Weddin' happen, the driver shouted. Please. This man, he's dying. Help me take him to a hospital. The driver looked into the bush, skeptical. Hope say you go pay me oh. I swear. I'll pay. Please just go. Together, they lifted the man into the back seat. Veronica climbed in, holding the man's hand tightly. Don't die, she whispered. Please don't die. At the hospital, the cab driver demanded 1,500 Nigerian nairas. Veronica opened her bag, she only had 1,100 Nigerian nairas. Please sir, this is everything. I beg you. He hissed and drove off angrily. Inside the emergency ward, chaos buzzed. A nurse barely looked up. Now your family? No. But he's dying. Deposit? I don't have money. But please help him. He's been shot. Tied up. The nurse rolled her eyes. No deposit, no treatment. Veronica fell to her knees. Please. I beg you. Her voice cracked. She looked up at the ceiling, hands trembling. God, please. Then a doctor appeared. He checked the man's pulse. We need to stabilize him now. But sir, the nurse said. We have no O-positive blood. The bank's empty. I'll give mine, Veronica said without hesitation. Everyone turned. You sure? The doctor asked. Yes. Take it. Minutes later, a needle pierced her arm. Blood flowed into a bag. She sat quietly, her lips dry, her body weak. She prayed silently. If this is what I was meant to do, I accept. An hour later, she sat on a bench outside the ward, her head spinning. The hallway lights blurred. Her hands dropped to her lap. And then, everything went black. Her body slumped to the floor with a dull thud. A nurse screamed, the girl who brought him in, she's collapsed. Veronica's body crumpled like a dropped leaf. One moment, she was barely upright on the hospital bench, her skin pale, her eyes glassy. The next, she collapsed, hitting the tile floor with a faint thud. Madam! Nurse! Nurse, someone shouted. A nurse rushed over, kneeling by her side. She's burning up. No blood pressure. Pulse is crashing. She donated blood, didn't she? A doctor yelled from down the hall. Yes, just now, the nurse shouted back. Start a drip, now. They lifted Veronica gently onto a stretcher and wheeled her into a separate room. Her arm dangled limply over the edge. An 4-needle was inserted into her hand as the nurse whispered, "Stay with me, please stay with me." "She has no ID," another nurse said. "No phone. Nothing. She just came in with that man. She paid the cab fare. She begged us to help. Then gave him her blood," the first nurse said, shaking her head. "Who does that, especially in Lagos?" Meanwhile, in the emergency room, the man who had been left for dead was beginning to stir. Machines beeped softly. His eyelids twitched. He blinked against the light. His lips parted. Water. A nurse leaned over. "You're safe now, sir. You're in the hospital." His eyes fluttered open. Confusion covered his face. "What happened?" "You were found bleeding and tied up in the bush. You've been unconscious for hours." He groaned, touching his sore ribs. "A girl brought you here," the nurse added. "She found you, paid for your transport, gave you blood. She saved your life." The man's expression shifted. "A girl?" She collapsed. "She's in the next room now." He struggled to sit up. "Sir, you need to rest." "Take me to her," he said firmly. "But." "I said now." Though his voice was weak, his tone was commanding. The nurse paused, something in his presence felt powerful. With 4 bag in tow, he slowly stepped down from the bed. His clothes were still torn and blood-stained. Each step was shaky, but he pressed forward. They reached the adjoining ward. The nurse pushed the door open gently. There she was, Veronica, hooked to a drip, her tiny frame swallowed by the hospital bed. Her wrapper was still dirty from the roadside. Her arms looked frail, her cheeks hollow. She looked like she might vanish into the sheets at any moment. The man stood there, motionless. Then, slowly, he moved toward her. When he reached her bedside, he whispered, "You saved me." His voice cracked. Veronica stirred. Her eyelids fluttered. She opened her eyes, dazed and confused, then focused on his face. "You're alive," she murmured. "I am," he said, lowering himself onto the chair beside her. "Because of you." She tried to sit up, but he stopped her gently. "Don't move. You're too weak." "I thought you were going to die," she said softly. "I almost did," he replied, glancing away. "You dragged me from the bush, flagged down a taxi, paid with your last money. You even gave me your blood." Veronica looked down, her voice barely a whisper. "I couldn't leave you. I just couldn't." "Why?" he asked. Tears welled in her eyes. "Because, even if nobody sees me, I still have a heart." The man stared at her, stunned. Her words struck him harder than any blow he had ever taken. He leaned closer, voice trembling, "I swear to you, your life will never be the same again." Just then, the hospital room door swung open and a man in a black suit rushed in. "Sir. Thank God we found you. The whole city's been searching." The man held up a hand. "Later, Isaac. Not now." The suited man nodded, confused, glancing between the two. The man turned back to Veronica. "What's your name?" She hesitated. "Veronica, from Enugu." He extended his hand. "Veronica. I am Chief Madu. Chairman of Madu Group. And from this moment on, I owe you everything." Veronica blinked, unsure if she'd heard right. Chief Madu. Even in her street days, she'd heard the name, whispers of a tech giant, one of Nigeria's wealthiest and most elusive men. Private. Powerful. Untouchable. And now he sat beside her in torn clothes, eyes filled with something she never expected from a billionaire, gratitude. "You don't know what you did for me," he said. Veronica looked at her hands. "I just did what I wish someone would do, if my father ever found himself like that." Chief Madhu nodded slowly. Then he turned to his assistant. "Isaac. Pay the bills." "Everything." "Yes, sir," Isaac said and bolted out. Behind the hospital curtains, the whispers had begun. "That's Chief Madhu. The real one. The girl saved him. That small girl. She gave him blood." Chief Madhu looked back at her, gently. "You're still weak. You need real food." Veronica gave a faint smile. "I'll be fine." "No," he said. "You gave me your blood. The least I can give you is a new life." She blinked, stunned by the weight of his words. A few hours later, Isaac returned with a nurse pushing a silver tray, grilled fish, jollof rice, ripe plantain, and fresh fruit juice. Veronica stared at the food like it was treasure. "Eat," Chief Madhu said. "Please." She didn't hesitate. Every bite felt like healing. Her body slowly relaxed. The fluid cooled her veins. She was still in a hospital bed, but for the first time in forever, she felt safe. As she wiped her mouth, her curiosity returned. "Sir, how did you end up like that?" "In the bush." Chief Madhu exhaled deeply. "I was kidnapped." Veronica gasped. He nodded. "They hijacked my car. Took me to a hidden location. Beat me for days. Demanded 50 million naira. "Did you pay it?" she asked, eyes wide. Isaac handled the transfer. "But even after they got the money, they decided to kill me. Said I was a liability. They drugged me, tied me up, and dumped me in the bush." "They left you to die," Veronica whispered. He nodded again. "And I would've, if not for you." There was silence for a moment. "Sir," she said gently, "you were meant to live. God still has plans for you." He looked at her, thoughtful. "Maybe you're part of that plan." Before either of them could say more, a team of private security officers arrived. Chief Madhu stepped outside to speak with them. Isaac stayed behind. He looked at Veronica curiously. "Do you know who you really saved?" She smiled weakly. "I'm beginning to." Isaac leaned closer. "Chief Madhu isn't just rich. He's powerful. People begged to shake his hand." Veronica looked down. "I didn't save him for money. I did it, because it was the right thing to do." Isaac nodded slowly. "That's why it matters." Moments later, Chief Madhu returned, dressed in fresh clothes. Simple, but elegant. He looked like the man from the news again. He turned to Veronica. "Get ready. We're leaving tomorrow. You're coming with me." Veronica's eyes widened. "Sir, I can't, I don't even know." He raised his hand. "Just say yes." She stared at him. Speechless. Then whispered, "Yes." That night, as she lay in the hospital bed, she didn't sleep. Not from fear, but for the first time in weeks. She wasn't afraid of tomorrow. The next morning, Veronica was officially discharged. She wore a simple floral gown Isaac had bought the night before. On her feet were brand new slippers. Her hair, still rough and uncombed, was pulled into a small bun. She looked like someone trying to remember who she once was, but there was something new in her eyes, a quiet, steady glow. Chief Madhu stood at the hospital entrance, surrounded by his personal guards and a polished black Range Rover. When Veronica stepped outside, still clutching her old nylon bag, he opened the door for her himself. "Let's go home," he said. "Home?" she echoed. She didn't understand what he meant, until they arrived. The car rolled into a massive estate in Ikoyi, protected by marble fences and iron gates that opened automatically. The driveway curved into a wide courtyard where gold-rimmed fountains gushed water into the air. Flowers bloomed everywhere. Trees lined the paths like royal guards. Veronica's jaw dropped. She had never seen anything like it. When the car stopped, she stepped out slowly, her eyes wide. She was still holding the same torn nylon bag. It felt ridiculous in her hand now. A maid dressed in crisp uniform opened the front door and bowed slightly. "Welcome, sir." "Welcome, madam." Veronica's heart skipped a beat. "Madam?" Inside, the mansion was even more dazzling. Crystal chandeliers sparkled above Italian-tiled floors. Expensive paintings hung on every wall. Soft instrumental music drifted through the air like perfume. She turned to Chief Madhu in shock. This is your house." He smiled. "Yes. And now, it's yours too." "No, sir," she said quickly. I can't stay here. I don't belong in a place like this." "You saved my life," he replied. "That's not a debt I take lightly." "But." "No buts. You will sleep here. Eat here. Heal here. That's the least I can give you." Tears stung her eyes. She had never lived in a house with running water, let alone air conditioning or imported tiles. A maid gently led her upstairs into one of the guest suites. The room was bigger than her entire home back in Enugu. The bed was king-sized with silk sheets. The bathroom had a hot shower and luxury soap she couldn't pronounce. There was even a dressing mirror with lights and drawers of neatly folded clothes. Veronica stood still, afraid to move. "Ma," the maid said softly, "you can freshen up. I'll bring your food soon." She nodded. In the mirror, she studied her reflection. Her face looked thinner. Her eyes, tired. But she saw something else too. A glimmer. A pulse of something she hadn't felt in a long time, dignity. After showering, she changed into the clean gown left on the bed. Then she was called downstairs. The dining room table was set like a royal banquet. On her plate was basmati rice in creamy sauce, golden fried plantains, and juicy grilled chicken. A tall glass of fresh orange juice sparkled beside the plate. She sat awkwardly. The silverware was unfamiliar. She wasn't sure which fork to use. But no one mocked her. No one watched. Later that afternoon, Chief Madhu invited her to sit with him in the garden. It was calm and green. Birds chirped in the fruit trees. A marble table stood in the center, with 2 chairs. Veronica sat gently, careful not to dirty anything. Chief Madhu sat opposite her, his voice quiet and warm. "Tell me about your life." She hesitated. "There's not much to say." "Try me." So she began. At first, slowly. Then the words started flowing. She spoke of her father, the teacher-turned-patient, wasting away in their small mud house. Her mother, tireless and always praying. How she quit school and joined a construction site to earn money. The pain. The ridicule. The sacrifices. And then, Madam P. She said she had a job for me. Promised me a better life, Veronica said, voice shaking. But when I refused to sleep with the man she arranged, she threw me out. Chief Madhu's jaw clenched. His voice dropped. That woman, she will answer for what she's done. I'm not looking for revenge, Veronica said. I just want to help my parents. My father is dying. We couldn't even afford proper tests, let alone real treatment. Chief Madhu was silent for a moment. Then he leaned forward and said, "What if I told you? I can send your father abroad for full medical treatment." Veronica's breath caught. "What?" she whispered. "I'll handle everything." A good hospital. Private care. Flights. And your mother too, if needed. She covered her mouth with trembling hands. Her body began to shake. Why? She asked. Why are you doing this for me? He looked at her gently. Because you gave me something no one else could. When I had nothing, not even a name, you gave me humanity. He stood and walked away briefly. When he returned, he held a small black suitcase. He placed it on the table in front of her and opened it. Bundles of dollars stared back at her. Veronica gasped and stood up abruptly. I can't accept this. You can. And you will, he said. Use it to rebuild your life. Help your parents. Help other girls like you. Prove that dignity can survive poverty. Veronica collapsed into the chair, sobbing. Not tears of fear this time. Tears of joy. Tears of release. Tears that only come when the pain finally lets go and peace takes its place. The garden glowed in the late afternoon light. Flowers swayed in the breeze. The sun painted golden stripes across the marble tiles. But Veronica didn't see any of that. She stared at the suitcase full of money, and thought of her father. Papa, she whispered, you'll finally be okay. Tears streamed down her cheeks. But this time, they were not bitter. They were sweet. Full of healing. Full of God. Chief Madhu watched her silently, like a proud father. This is not a favor, Veronica, he said. It's a harvest. You planted kindness. Now, you're reaping your destiny. The wind stirred gently through the trees. Veronica looked up at the sky, then whispered. Thank you, God, for this miracle. That evening, Veronica sat in Chief Madhu's garden long after the sun had dipped behind the trees. The marble floor was warm beneath her bare feet. The birds had quieted. The stars began to appear, one by one, just like the quiet thoughts forming in her heart. She looked at the briefcase still sitting in front of her, the bundles of cash untouched. Sir, she finally said, her voice steady but soft, you don't know what this means to me. Chief Madhu leaned back in his seat. Maybe not. But I know what you mean to me. He looked her in the eyes. You didn't know who I was. You didn't care. You helped me when I was helpless. That matters more than you know. Veronica wiped her eyes, still trembling from it all. I didn't want you to die. That's all. He smiled. And that's why I will never forget you. He paused. Tomorrow, my jet will be ready. Your parents will be flown to India for medical care. You'll go with them. Everything has already been arranged. Veronica gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Sir. Your father deserves a second chance, Chief Madhu continued. And your mother deserves rest. You gave me my life back, Veronica. Now I'm giving you yours. Veronica stood from her seat and walked around the table. Then, unable to hold back the emotions, she sank to her knees before him. He quickly reached down and lifted her up. No. Don't kneel to me, he said gently. You've survived things most people couldn't imagine. You don't need to bow. You need to stand tall. She looked at him, eyes shining. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Before she could say more, he placed another document on the table. A legal title. 3-bedroom house, he said. All yours. Your name is on the papers. You'll never sleep under a bridge again. Veronica stared at the file. Sir, please, this is too much. Not for the girl who gave her blood on an empty stomach, he replied. Not for someone who saved a dying man without asking who he was. There was silence. Then, slowly, she stepped back and tilted her head toward the sky. The clouds drifted lazily across the stars. The mango trees swayed in the evening breeze. Just days ago, she was fighting for scraps, hiding from danger, begging strangers for work. Now she was here. In a palace. Holding the keys to a new future. "Papa," she whispered, "you'll get the care you need." More tears rolled down, but these were warm. Cleansing. Joyful. Chief Madhu said nothing. He just watched her, his eyes soft with pride. "This isn't charity," he said finally. "This is justice. You sowed goodness when the world gave you none. And now, the universe is paying you back." A gentle wind passed through the garden. Veronica stood still for a moment, arms wrapped around herself, not from fear or cold, but from something deeper. Gratitude. Then she took a deep breath. "Thank you, God, for not forgetting me." And just like that, the story that began with pain, betrayal, and abandonment had turned a page. Now it was a story of purpose. Of destiny. Of redemption. Lesson of the story. Never underestimate the strength of character. Even when life breaks you down, never sell your soul. In a world where it's easy to give up your values for survival, holding on to integrity will always set you apart. And when kindness is given freely, without reward in mind, it often returns multiplied. Veronica's journey is proof, dignity, even in desperation, is not weakness. It is power. And one simple act of compassion can open doors that even wealth cannot. We hope this story moved you. If it did, please tell us what touched your heart the most in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, turn on notifications, and share this video with someone who needs to hear it today. Thanks for watching.